Welcome to Decode Dune, an exegesis of the Dune universe.
Welcome to Decode Dune. We got Jeff, we got Mike. It's 3/27/22. We're recording a couple episodes here at once. Yeah. Things are about to get busy in life. On a personal note, literally after we wrap this meeting, this recording of this episode, we're gonna pull my fiance into this call, and Jeff is gonna talk to us about our wedding ceremony because he is performing or doing our wedding. And what's the term for it? Doing the serving as minister.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm the officiant.
Yeah.
Officiant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will be performing your wedding ceremony, or a little interpretive dance.
Yeah.
Is what I have planned. I don't want to give too much away. I know we're going to discuss it in a minute, but
yeah.
I'll give you a little preview.
Yep.
It's going to be a little Grateful Dead hands.
Sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
Or like a TikTok dance.
Yeah. So that, for the audience, that's 4:30. Ren Faire season's coming up. We're going to go on opening day, and then that's the thing. And then things are going to get really busy. I got family coming into town.
If you're a fan and you want to creep on Mike's wedding, you now know where to be.
April 30th. I have a coworker who claims he's going to drive down from the Bay and he's going to show up. And I told him if he does, I'll buy him a beer.
There you go.
He's not on the official guest list, but he's on the I'll buy him a beer if he shows up list.
Yeah. Are you extending that offer to any of our podcast listeners?
You know what? If you for the guests of the wedding, like any wedding, right? We are providing entrance into the Renaissance Fair and food and drink, right? Like you do with a wedding, right?
Like you do, yeah.
But if you gotta
feed people, otherwise who would show up to your wedding?
But if you're not on the guest list, but you do walk up to me and say, I listen to Decode Dune, I will buy you a beer. And I would say, I probably have the budget for the number of people that are likely to do that. I could be surprised. We'll see. Not likely, but yeah.
If all our fans showed up, what would 7 beers cost you?
Yeah. So about 100 with tip.
No. Yeah. All right. I'll help out then.
Yeah, I could do that.
My extended wedding gift to you.
Yeah.
Is that.
SoCal Ren Faire.
I actually have a solve for this.
Yeah.
I have a solve for this. So you won't have to spend any money. If you are a Decode Dune fan and you show up on that day, we're gonna hook you up.
Yeah.
I'll say no more than that.
Okay. Yeah. Anytime, I'd say after about 11:30 in the morning. Because we got to do the ceremony and then we got to actually get into the park and stuff. So
we got to get him a meat pie, right?
Yeah. Find us at after 11:30 at the SoCal Ren Faire on 4:30 and say, you could say, I am a friend of Jameis, or you could say, I listen to Decode. If you come up to me and say, I'm a friend of Jameis, best wishes on your wedding, you're getting, in fact, you're going to get, say I listen to Decode podcast for one item. Say I am a friend of Jameis, and you get 2 items. So anyway, that's that.
Okay.
Big chapter.
And if you know either of our Fremen names,
yeah,
you can come to the after party.
Yeah, you can come to the after party.
Our Siege names.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Got that taken care of. So we're ready to start.
Page 408.
408. Here we go.
Yep.
The concept of progress acts as a protective mechanism to shield us from the terrors of the future. From the collected sayings of Muad'Dib by the Princess Irulan. So that's kind of fucked. Herbert's saying that our belief in progress is an illusion that keeps us from just fucking freaking out about how horrible the future is going to be.
Yeah. Right. Well, are we going to make it off planet? Are we going to make it off planet? I know the billionaires are, but are we? Are your children?
Yeah, are we gonna live forever? Billionaires are,
Yeah.
not us. Somebody
Yeah.
said that. They're like, in 10 to 20 years, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, if you're a billionaire.
Right.
But if you think that shit's trickling down to you, it's
Right.
not.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a legit concern, right? The world's heating up.
Mhm.
Are we going to counteract it, or I mean, some people are clearly the plan B is also get off, but so a lot to be talked about. This
Yeah.
chapter's interesting. It's extremely long. It's an extremely long chapter. And I was rereading it on Friday evening at a moment when I was not exactly in the mood to be doing that, but you got to do your homework, right? And that was the only time that it was going to be done. And I was marveling at the comparative length of this chapter compared to some of the other chapters in this book. Very interesting. So right off the bat, and I have to say, because we talked about this in just our last episode, which was recorded 10 minutes ago, but for you, this is a week later. Frank is not exactly a huge world builder. He just kind of shows you what you see, what you see is what you get, or something. I don't know.
See what you got. Yeah.
I really loved the snippets of the world building in the beginning of this chapter, and I did find myself going, God, fuck. I don't know if I want to delve into the Brian Herbert books at all. I've heard not good things from you and from others, and then I've heard a couple of people say no, they're really good and they're worthwhile.
Who are the what names?
Oh, I can't.
I'm kidding.
Just
I'm
fucking
kidding.
people in the Facebook groups. Yeah.
I'll fight you over it. Not you, but them.
Yeah. The details, like that Geidi Prime has sort of like a Israel vibe of like, there's like, well, what I mean is there's wealth and it's nice, but there's also it's really high security to enjoy that wealth and security. Mexico City, maybe same thing. Like you got like this, what you don't, for what it's worth, in downtown LA, where certainly some rich people live, Beverly Hills, etc. Gated communities, gated houses, you're not really seeing the military, security apparatus necessary to keep kind of society in line. I wouldn't say Beverly Hills looks idyllic, but they do a good job of keeping stuff away from the city instead, if I'm threading this needle properly. In Geidi Prime, the way this intro is written, it's like full high security, barbed wire. It mentions that the guns that the security people are holding have the sheen that implies frequent usage to keep the locals in line. There's like, everything looks nice, and then you get a block away from like whatever the main area, and like you just see down the alleyways how fucked up it is. And I was really like struck Brazil. I was really struck by this world building, and I don't know if it would be worth finding something that Brian Herbert wrote about Geidi Prime or the Rise of the Harkonnens, where maybe there is a little bit more of that flavor. Again, you did tell me that one of the Brian Herbert books you read was about Bene Gesserit, was all action and no meaningful info about the Bene Gesserit. So I don't know. But anyway, I'm just soapboxing here. I really liked seeing this idea that Geidi Prime is not fully clear. It does mention this is the price that the Baron is paying for what they did over on Arrakis. Unclear if it's always been this way, though, on this planet, or this is a more recent measure. I think it's a little bit open to interpretation. So that's the scene. We also learn that there are Feyd Rautha Harkonnen killed his 100th slave gladiator in the family games on his 17th birthday. So very interesting. I don't really remember this from my first read. Family games is an interesting thing. So feats of strength, like what all do they do? We don't know. We don't know what the family games are. We just know that they at least involve a gladiatorial combat, and that Feyd is out there murking people. We can spoil it and say it's super fucking rigged. we'll put that aside. So the scene is they're preparing for, they're in, what city is it? They're in the festival city of I'd say the closest thing we have to a festival city in the United States is New Orleans. I know that in India they have cities that are quite literally called like the festival city.
Right.
We don't really have. I mean, I guess we have more multi-purpose city. It doesn't really matter. It's a city that's named once, but they're in the festival city for the family games. Fenring and his wife are there. Him and the Baron are kind of around near minor houses, and Fenring has this really. Is it a stutter? Is it put on?
Yeah.
It sure looks fucking put on, because he does this weird stutter. Stutter meets the Skesis from Dark Crystal. Yeah, where it takes him forever to say anything. And
Yes.
It seems to go away when him and Baron talk in private. So it seems and then it comes back when they leave so it seems very weird. So the scene is that Feyd Rautha, Baron, Fenring, and Fenring's wife are all together at a moment, with minor houses being within earshot. And Fenring, who has already, I think, been introduced before, or did I fuck up and he hasn't really been introduced at all so far?
No,
Fenring is the Emperor's man. He's
Yeah.
like his main guy. So he's yeah, wait, how has he been introduced? Was he at the dinner
I
party?
thought he was at the dinner
Yeah.
party, wasn't he?
Okay, he was at the dinner party. Okay,
Yeah.
so he isn't. I knew it. I knew he was an established
Yeah.
character.
Mhm.
So he's the Emperor's man. We understand that the Emperor also illicitly has smugglers in his employ. The Emperor's in all kinds of stuff, and Fenring is kind of his consigliere.
Yes.
So he travels, right? So he travels to Geidi Prime, the Harkonnens' kind of home planet,
Sure.
and he's there, and he's doing
Yeah.
weird Skesis. This is and it's annoying and really hard to read. And Feyd Rautha's like, he's like, your wife's hot, and I will kill someone for her today in the gladiatorial pit. Do you approve? She's like, I don't. And that's a moment. And basically, Baron or Fenring pulls Baron aside, I think. And now they're talking in private, away from the earshot of the minor houses who are prone to gossip and cause
And
problems.
was Feyd Rautha kind of like flirting with his wife?
Yeah. He wants to pile drive that puss.
Okay. Good. That's on page 4.
I think my shtick in this podcast needs to be, if it comes up to sexuality, just to make it as weird as possible.
Yeah,
because,
I like it. You've been very successful today. Yeah.
Yeah, and she is not into it. She does not want to be. It's actually shout out again back to Game of Thrones, right? Rhaegar Targaryen at the king's tourney does a thing where he, instead of calling out, well, Feyd Rautha doesn't have a wife, but instead of making his wife Elia Martell the princess of Queen and Beauty, or whatever the hell it is, for the tourney or the joust, he picks Ned Stark's younger sister, which is obviously a huge scandal. Now, you can't do that, right? Can't call out some woman who's not yours. So where am I going? Fenring and Baron are now having a private discussion away from the minor houses, who again will eavesdrop and gossip and cause problems. And
back to your thing about his affectations,
it disappears.
I think that's an interest. It not only does it disappear, but I think this is why like guys like Feyd Rautha misunderstand Fenring and his power, and then just can act like assholes or goofy in front of him, and not realize the what they're actually doing. Like,
I think in other words, is, do you think Feyd Rautha is calling him a beta and saying, like, you're a wiener? I could steal your girl.
Yeah. I think for sure he thinks and believes that. Yeah. And I think it comes from the way that Fenring interacts with him, or interacts in public.
Yeah.
Well, Fenring also, it's probably a huge spoiler, but also a potential Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah.
Failed.
There was a
potential, but
that, I mean, speaking of Frank Herbert's reporting style, that is just dropped in there in a
like it's no
random
big deal.
sentence, and
Yeah.
like
exactly.
him and Paul make eye contact, and we're like, oh, we're kind of peas in a pod, and that's it.
Mhm.
So where am I going with this? All right, so they're privately speaking, his affectation drops, and now he's all business, and it's like, you know, you sent home the Sardukar. We did not like that. And he's
Mhm.
like, well, you know, I didn't really want them there. And then you know, the count is like, well, the emperor wants to audit your books. And he's like, I will survive that audit. That's fine. And then there's another moment where he's like, if you there's a moment where I guess he feels threatened, or there's a threat, and he's like, if you think that anyone here can threaten me or kill me while I'm on Geidi Prime, all of the other major houses will know what you did on Arrakis, and that will be your end. We learn Fenring didn't know. There's a thing with, you have Thufir. How the fuck do you have Thufir? Remember, the Baron does have Thufir because he was hidden. He was shot with a stunner, and then they brought him into a place, and they said, like, you're now going to be in service to us. And there's he's like, you have Thufir.
I like that in David Lynch's mind, he was given a cat to milk.
Yeah.
A cat in a box with a mouse, I believe.
Yeah,
that was fucking so stupid.
It
was a tiny Rube Goldberg machine.
Yeah, and
you couldn't see it. Yeah.
The Mentats in the Lynch version had the bushy eyebrows as a marker of what they were supposed to be.
Yeah. You and I, fast approaching Mentat.
Yeah. It's funny. Much better done, in my opinion, in the new movie, is when they're doing their Mentat calculations, they kind of like lizard eye it or do a thing.
Yeah.
That was cool. Cool.
Eyes roll back in your head.
Yeah.
Your other eyelids drop.
Yeah. So what else? So there's some stuff. Get rid of Thufir, kill him. He's like, no, but I need a Mentat. I want a Mentat. I got this under control. Yeah, I got him on the I got him on a slow poison where he'd die after a few days if we didn't continue to give him the antidote. Fenring's like, well, give him the fucking antidote. He should be dead. He knows too much. And there's that. The conversation ended, and his affectation goes back to normal. I'm trying to think, am I missing anything here? I mean, it's shop talk. And they're like, cool, good chat. Time to head to the gladiatorial ring. And now there's now we get to the kind of the meat of the chapter is, I guess, it's to show some of this is a little, for me, a little convoluted, but it's to show the cunningness of Feyd Rautha and his grand design to create a situation where he's going to be, there is a moment of where Feyd is at least on the Harkonnen side, Feyd is the official heir, so to speak, to the Harkonnen title, and apparently you need approval from the Emperor per person who takes over for your family, and the Emperor has not yet approved this. So there's a whole thing with that. There's then this knife fight that Feyd is going to do, and this whole thing is very interesting. What can we say about this knife fight, Jeff?
Well,
good.
It's too long.
Okay. Yeah.
So we could say that.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's supposed to show us that Feyd Rautha is dangerous, I think, and sneaky. but
Yeah.
also like it just sort of shows all of his attributes, all the attributes that are going to matter,
Yeah.
right? So he is overconfident and cocky. This is what Sting. This is why I think David Lynch's choice of Sting here was perfect, because yeah, that worked out pretty good. But yeah, and then he ends up. So he shows all of this. He ends up fighting a former Duke
Atreides
Later
man.
dude,
Yeah.
and it scared him.
Yeah. Yeah, because they did this
Yeah.
weird. Yeah. So the thing about the duel is the interesting thing about the duel is it has elements of a bullfight where they have like these barbs, which I think are picaderos in a real bullfight. So they have so they skewer them a couple times, but none of that just agitates the bull. I don't know if they drug a bull before it comes out. They rile it up for sure. They rile the bull up and get it all ready to fight. I don't know if they actually drug it. But so there's some elements of similarity between this and a bullfight. But what's interesting then is the tradition. So Feyd kind of inverts and undermines the normal traditions, but the normal tradition of these fights are they take a slave and they get them all hyped up on a drug called Ilaka, which they've taken by the fact that it makes their skin kind of orange, like Jersey Shore Donald Trump-ish, I guess. What's interesting is this whole thing to me seems like the average fight is where they take a severely they handicap the person fighting the rich person to make it easy for the rich person. This is not a real test or showcase of their fighting skills. It's theater where a rich person just gets to kill people who are, in a vulnerable situation. So it's not, in my opinion, spelled out that clearly, but it's interesting. Yeah, this is not designed to put the person like a Feyd Rautha to the ultimate test of their fighting abilities traditionally.
Right.
And that's interesting because in my mind, obviously, that's not very honorable. Yeah. So that's interesting. In this case, they do not drug the Atreides man, and that's why he's a little bit more cogent, ready to fight. There's a tradition of one blade is poisoned, another blade is not poisoned. They did a thing where Feyd Rautha poisoned the opposite one. Thufir had a plan of we'll paint the guy's skin and not drug him. This is all related also to the idea that the slave master who got the slave ready for combat is going to be killed for doing this. I don't really remember where this comes in other than that undermines the Baron in some way.
Well, doesn't it also put Feyd Rautha at real risk? So they'll have to do it simply to show that they'll have to kill him just to make it seem like it was all real treachery and not
right. My question is, do we know why this slave master needs to be killed? Like, what does it do in the grand scheme of things?
No, I think it's just I think its only intention is that.
Okay.
That it demonstrates that this was real. So just it emphasizes the point you made a minute ago that ordinarily, this is just a rich person killing a disabled poor person. But in this particular case,
it's a real fight.
More treacherous. It's a real fight.
Yeah. And Feyd wins. He wins a real fight. I actually, now that I think about it, I guess this is because, and I failed to mention this in my summary before Fenring and Baron go and talk in their more private one-on-one, there's a moment where Fenring's wife is like, oh, this is the guy. This was the guy that was supposed to, I think, become the next emperor, or at a minimum get married to the Atreides' daughter, which then didn't happen because Paul, right? I.e., this is the bloodline we really need to conserve. And at first, she's like skeptical. She's like, really? This guy just seems like a street tough.
Yeah.
And then his bravura in the fight makes her go, oh, okay. I see why he's the chosen one, why he's
Right.
worth preserving, and we need to keep this bloodline. And it's a shame about Paul, because I heard he was cool too, but it is what it is. So yeah, there's a comment, God's what a fighting man. So yeah, he does a good show. It makes the people love him. And it reinforces with Fenring and his wife, and she needs to do a thing. I don't know if she needs to fully seduce him in a sexual way, or it says she just needs to get she needs to do some like hypno there'll be no guilt, hypno legation of that Feyd Rautha's psyche and his child. And oh no, she does. No, she needs to fuck him, and she needs to get pregnant with him. Yeah. So Fenring is he's cucked by the Bene Gesserit like everyone else. Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna say? Female selectivity. They get to decide who carries on the genes. Anything else you want to say about this? I mean, it all folds into the plan. There's a comment of Fenrir. Sorry, I feel like I just asked you a question and cut you off. I'll make one more comment. There is a comment about with his level of popularity with Feyd's level of popularity after just winning this fight, this could lead. Ostensibly, it's the idea that the people will rise up against the Baron, but they're saying this directly leads to the idea that the Baron may be out sooner, and Feyd may be leading the family the sooner as well, and that's why they need to get their hooks into him sooner. Ostensibly, it is because the people who already don't like the Baron will overthrow him in favor of Feyd. You think that's the right analysis?
I think so.
Yeah.
Whatever becomes of the Baron, however that works out. I think the Baron has over leveraged himself in this whole thing. This is a classic mistake you can make, right? So you can press an advantage so far that you might get everything you want, but then it limits your long-term prospects. And I think that's what's happening here, is that while the Baron is seemingly kind of winning on all fronts right at this moment, he's definitely overplayed his hand a little bit, and he himself is no one's really planning for him in the same way that they weren't planning for Leto, other than to like, when this dude's gone, what happens next? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So anything more to say about this chapter? I feel like I did a lot of talking this one. Do you have?
No, I think you did great.
Oh, thank you.
I don't. No, I think you covered all of the important pieces. If I'm quiet, it's because you are killing it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's it, right? I'm trying to think if there's anything that I missed. I'm starting to feel spent, and we do have that other thing to talk about, and I know you have a heart out and yada yada, so we should be mindful of that. The whole thing, it's just the show. Oh, the one snarky joke I have is, so Thufir's on this poison that if they don't give him the antidote in his food every day, he'll die. Yeah, okay, cool. So he's basically forced to stay alive, and he's coerced into working for them. Why doesn't he just do a bad job? Like, what stops him from doing just a mediocre job? Nothing.
Yeah, the doctor.
Like, how will they even know? Like, you're, like, you could be doing a better job as a mentat, but like, we're not. Like, you know what I mean? You're just calling it in.
It is stupid to the whole thing of like keeping him as his mentat stupid. Yeah. This is stupid. Yeah. Cool. I think it was just to prolong Hawat's role here a little bit, but it's a stupid idea. And maybe those kinds of stupid blunders are why people aren't investing in the Baron.
Yeah.
Like he's spending all of the capital he's accrued, and the mistakes he makes are pretty loudly visible. And
right.
The Hawat one is, the Thufir one is a really easy one to spot.
Yeah.
You're never going to get out of this guy what you got out of Piter de Vries, because for Piter, you had something that Piter wanted.
Right.
I don't think Thufir Hawat cares, would if they were like, you pick, he would have just probably died.
Right.
You have to keep him alive. Like that's where where Lynch, the way that Lynch dealt with it is he set up a real dilemma.
Yeah.
Where you believe that Thufir probably wants to live, and in order to live has to do something with that fucking cat or whatever.
Right.
I don't know what it's supposed to be. You got to milk it every day or whatever. Whereas in this case, they have to all he knows, but that's it. Like I just don't think there's any reason that Hawat would do a good job here.
He could also go, and if he wanted to die, he could also just go on a hunger strike,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I mean, maybe he's weak and afraid to die, and that's okay. Like I totally get that. But yeah, but even on his best day, he's never going to be as good for Baron Harkonnen as he was for Duke Leto. Never.
Yeah.
So it just seems stupid.
Well, that's it. That's the takeaway.
All right.
Hawat still being alive, stupid.
He's
phoning it in. So that's it for this episode of Decode Dune. Hope you've enjoyed it. We're, again, after that lengthy time spent on Foundation, we're happy to be back in the book. These chapters are great, and some more good stuff coming.
Like and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. And to hear more readings, become a Patreon supporter at Patreon/Decode Podcast.